Hey, good morning. Happy day, happy journey, happy life. It's a wonderful day. It is Tuesday, and I get to talk about upcoming events at Rythmia. I'm super excited because we have some amazing, as always, amazing speakers, amazing thought leaders coming to the center to join you on your journey, to join you on your path. So super excited to share with you. Hello, Patty. Thank you for joining us. Super excited to tell you a little bit about what's coming up. And then after we're going to talk about upcoming events, I want to share with you a little bit of what I'm working on personally today, which is releasing some old habits. And so I wanted to share with you the ways in which I'm going about that, because I know there's all sorts of old patterns, old habits, old ways of being that are influencing us, an automatic influence. Hi, Maggie. Hello from California. I'm in California too, and LA right now. And Walker, great to see you. Hello, man. So we're going to talk about not only the upcoming events, but also how to change these old habits, how to change these old ways of being that tend to function as an autopilot and pull us back into old ways of being because they're comfortable. So I want to share that with you a little bit later in the talk, but we're going to talk first about what's coming up at Rythmia. What's going on? We have so much. Hello, Amanda. Great to see you. So first of all, first on the agenda to tell you about what's coming up is Spirit Science. Jordan River and Aaron Fair are coming June 30th to July 7th. So you still have time. And this is an amazing, man, if you don't know about Spirit Science, they are cool cats. Spirit Science was created in 2011 by Jordan River and Aaron Fair with an intention to share and discuss spirituality in an open and compassionate way, with respect for all walks of life and honoring that which is sacred within each of us. They've developed these great cartoons that explain some really deep topics, like from tarot to energy to the art of manifestation through the Kabbalah. I mean, these cats are cool. And what they're going to be talking about when they're at Rythmia, June 30th through the 7th of July, they're going to discuss the journey of the soul. This workshop reflects Aaron and Jordan's personal journey to connect with the soul, as well as the journey we all take through life as souls, interacting through the four elements and striving to unite the heavenly realm with our mortal bodies. Man, that is a cool idea, right? Seeking to unite the heavenly realm with our mortal bodies. We talk a lot about heaven and earth, right? And when they're talking about uniting the heavenly realm with the mortal body, they're talking about uniting heaven and earth. In fact, teachers like Sue Morter use the phrase heaven earth. They put it together because we become a channel. We become a channel through which a divine energy can flow. And when we are an open and available channel, when we are saying yes and thank you, when we are open and available, we allow that energy to flow through us, uniting the realm of the eternal, the heavenly realm, with our own bodies and the physical realm. And so we bring heaven to earth, right? And so that's why the phrase is heaven earth, right? So when Jordan and Aaron are talking about uniting the heavenly bodies and the heavenly realm with the physical body, they're talking about this process of opening ourselves up to that which is constantly broadcasting. Listen, there's an old metaphysical or rather an old philosophical chestnut that says, if a tree falls in the woods and no one's there to hear it, does it make a sound? Well, the metaphysician would say, no, it doesn't make a sound, because sound is a vibration and requires a receiver to be realized, right? It has to be received by something in order to be understood, in order to be interpreted, and in order to be realized. So, in the same way, the eternal energy, Andu, Zinlin, wow, Susan, great to see you guys. So in the same way, the eternal energy of the divine, all the good, all the excellence, all the creativity, all the love, all the joy, all the beauty, all the abundance, all of the source itself is.
We become our own genetic engineer.
Oh my goodness.
Yes or no? So then when you begin to change the belief
going on here,
that you are your genes, that means you...
I was listening to some Joe Dispenza, and he wanted to come say something there really quickly. So that was Joe Dispenza coming in. So anyway, in the same way, all of the energy, all of the love, all of the beauty, all of the creativity, all of the abundance, all of the joy, all of the power of the divine, of the eternal broadcast is always broadcasting. And our job is to open ourselves up to be a receiver. And when we receive that and work on ourselves in order to receive more, because, you know, in a certain state, in a contracted state, it's like a light bulb that can contain 40 watts of power. We can't put 100 million watts through a light bulb that can only handle 40 watts. It's going to explode. So the divine is just waiting. All the creativity, all the love, all the joy, all the beauty, all the abundance, all of the excellence, all the power is waiting to express through us. And our job through meditation, through our spiritual practices, through retreats, through plant medicine, through all of the things that we do to open ourselves up, we make ourselves available for more of that energy to express through us. We unite heaven and earth. Heaven, earth becomes our playground. We bring heaven to earth by opening ourselves up to express the divine energy, the excellent qualities. And in doing so, we change our lives. We change the lives around us, and we change our environment. And how do we do that? That's the question. So the first part of this talk was, you know, sharing upcoming events. And we got a little bit off because Jordan and Aaron from Spirit Science are bringing this idea of how to unite the heavenly realm with the physical body. So we're talking a little bit about that right now. The other event that I want to share with you coming up November 25th to the 31st. I'm giving you a big, long time because this is a cool event. It's our first, and there's going to be more LGBTQ weeks. We're hosting an LGBTQ week at Rythmia. Yes. So this is an opportunity for a community to come together and all aspects of self-expression, right? Because Rythmia is about waking up to yourself, waking up to your miracles, waking up to your true essence, your true being, and expressing more of that, being more who you really are, who you already are, waiting to express, right? So we're an inclusive community. And so we're going to highlight an LGBTQ week, November 25th through the 31st. That's the other thing I want to highlight for upcoming events. It's going to be epic. It's going to be slamming. Aaron or Jordan River from Spirit Science is going to be there, and Ben Decker. Wow, Ben Decker is going to be there. If you don't know about Ben Decker, he's a cool cat. He is a meditation teacher and has a wonderful book called Meditation for Beginners. And he also is such a beautiful being who has had a tremendous, tremendous life journey. Leaving a really restrictive and conservative Mormon background, realizing his own sexuality, and the arc of that journey is truly remarkable. He was sharing with me last week a little bit about his life story, and wow, what an amazing journey from moving from being kicked out of his home at 17 to, you know, doing the marketing for Iron Man and working at very high levels in the entertainment industry, and then having a spiritual awakening and turning his life, changing his life, turning his life over to the divine. So Ben Decker and Jordan are going to be hosting LGBTQ week. We also have our very own Jennifer Sodini will be there as well, because we are inclusive. We've got to represent all the aspects of LGBTQ. I'm going to be there because I'm just about as Q as you can be, baby. And so I'm going to be there. And we are, hey, Kenny, hey, Nicole. Yeah, what? LGBTQ? Woo! So 2 upcoming events that I want to highlight. One, coming up this end of June, and through the June 30th through July 7th is Spirit Science cool cats, bringing to you how to unite the heavenly realm with the physical earthly body, how to bring heaven to earth, how to walk every day in heaven. Wow, beautiful and powerful. And then I want to highlight to you, Orly, hello, good to see you too. And then I want to highlight for you the LGBTQ week, November 25th through the 31st. At Rythmia, first of many LGBTQ weeks. We want to get this community together. We're going to have such an amazing time being together in fellowship and in this deep walk, a deep practice. So many of us in the LGBT community have internalized a sense of shame and self-loathing because of this otherness that we feel. And it's strictly created by our being in tune with an environment that tells us that. No matter how open things are today, more than they were 20 or 30 or 40 years ago, absolutely. But there's still this self-loathing. And guess what? It's not only in the LGBTQ community. Every one of us has internalized toxic shame. Every one of us has internalized a sense of lack and unworthiness, and our ability to move outside of this sense of lack, this constrictive and dense energy of lack and limitation, and how we can open up to be more of our true selves, right? Everything is really talking about the same thing. How can we release limited thought, fear, doubt, worry, not enoughness, lack, limitation, and limited thinking, and open ourselves up to an infinite possibility? Here's how we do it. This is the second part of the talk. So we've highlighted two things. One is what's coming up June 30th through July 7th, Spirit Science, and the next is November 25th through the 31st, LGBTQ week. Now I want to talk about releasing old habits, right? Because these old habits of being a limited self, this old habit of being restrictive and anchoring in worry, doubt, and fear, that is the process of releasing those old restrictive habits. Hi, Gina. Hi, Jill. Hi, Nicole. So grateful that you all are here. All right, so here it is. How do we release old habits? Well, this is my journey. Today, I've got some habits that I want to release. I went to visit some old friends, some dear friends, and I love them very much. And I was a different person when I lived in Denver and was hanging out with these folks. And they're beautiful, beautiful people and dear friends of mine. But I noticed that I went back to an old place where I used to live and was dominated by my environment. I allowed old habits and old ways of being to dominate me, and I capitulated to them. Nothing wrong with it, no shame, no blame. But the interesting thing is, I want to choose to be different. How can I walk in life and choose to be different, right? That's just the intention. And so I noticed these old habits, these old ways of being, and I started to realize that when I'm at my best, when I'm really in the flow, and we've all had those moments of being in the zone, when I'm in the flow, when I'm in the zone, when I'm at my best, I forget myself. I forget this identity, right? So I'm stepping out of these old ways of being. I'm stepping out of limited thought about myself, my old toxic shame and guilt and blame. I'm stepping out of limited thinking, and I'm stepping out of my egoic structures, right? When I'm at my best, when I'm in the zone, when I'm in the flow, I'm not thinking about myself. So that's the first thing that I'm realizing. The next thing is that how I think and act and feel about myself, they create my reality. That the way I think about myself creates my reality. Am I feeling low today? Am I feeling unworthy today? Am I feeling just not able to do it? All of those things begin to outpicture in my reality. Now, the natural tendency is to say, well, I'm just going to pick myself up by my bootstraps. I'm just going to take this and run. I'm going to think positively and affirm. Great things to do. However, the most important thing is not to deny the way we're feeling. There's a really interesting study that Dr. Mario Martinez did with Tibetan monks. Dig this. Tibetan monks that this guy was working with. Mario Martinez is a guest speaker at Rythmia. He's a neuropsychologist who has a tremendous, really beautiful practice. He was working with Tibetan monks. He told me this story when he was at Rythmia last. We were having dinner, and he was telling me this story about how Tibetan monks that he was working with had a high instance of type 2 diabetes. And they couldn't figure out. They thought it was the diet, but their diet's pretty good. Where are these monks who are meditating 20 hours a day? Where are they coming up with type 2 diabetes, right? This is a unhealthy outpicturing in the body of a way of eating and a way of being. How does that happen to monks who are devoting themselves to meditation? So what he realized was that the monks have a practice called enmeshment, and they must, part of their practice is to have loving kindness, and loving kindness, secondly, for their enemies, to wish for the success of their enemies, right? That's their meditative practice. So they were spending all this time wishing for the success and good fortune of the Chinese, who have, raped their nuns and destroyed their temples and taken their texts and taken over their country, right? So these monks are meditating and they're angry, right? There's anger that comes up when you start to think about the things that you've lost with an invading force. Well, they were moving directly from anger, from the state of agitation, to a state of loving kindness and wishing the best for their enemies. And what Dr. Martinez noticed is that the Tibetans don't have a word for emotion in their language. There's no word for emotion. And the Dalai Lama had to come up with a phrase to describe emotion so that they could understand what this thing is. They didn't even have a word for emotion. And what the Dalai Lama came up with was, it is the experience of affect. So you're experiencing some effect, right? That's emotion. That's the word or the phrase that the Dalai Lama came up with. So dig this. The Tibetan monks are meditating, they're not aware of an emotion, they don't even have a word for emotion, but they're angry because of what's happened in their environment, to their temples, to their nuns, to their tradition, to their country, and they are moving directly from this agitated state to a state of loving kindness and wishing the best for their enemies. Well, emotion happens in the body. Emotion is triggered by the pituitary gland and the adrenals and all of these glandular systems in the endocrine system and the endocannabinoid system that react to our external stimuli and release chemicals in the body that reflect our emotional feelings. So these monks, when you're angry, when I'm angry, certain chemicals are released in the body that cause us to feel this sensation. And in order to calm down, other chemicals have to be released. We have to go through this state of calming down. Well, the monks were moving directly from a state of agitation and anger, which they didn't even have a concept of, to a state of loving kindness. And in order for the body to physically do that, high levels of endorphins had to be released in order to calm down. High levels of endorphin are fine on a short-term cue, but these monks were doing this for 20 hours a day over the course of a lifetime. And when the body has to reduce the levels of anger in the body by releasing endorphins, those endorphins translate into glucose in the body over long periods of time. That outpictures as type 2 diabetes. Wow. So what we saw in this example from Dr. Martinez is that our emotions and our ability to deal with those emotions outpicture in the body physically, right? We're a physiological instrument that is finely tuned to release either toxic or tonic chemicals based on our external stimuli. So if we're going to change habit, we've got to change the way we talk about ourselves. We've got to change the way we think and act and feel about ourselves, with an awareness that we have to abide with our feelings. We can't bypass them. The monks were bypassing from anger directly into loving kindness. And so what Dr. Martinez recommended that they do is shift into righteous indignation. So they go from anger to then being with, righteously, like, this is not cool, what's happening. I've got to understand this. I've got to be with it. I've got to abide with it, not bypass it, not suppress it, not get hooked by it. Just observe it. right? Just observe it. And in that act of observation, the body begins to calm down gently. And then you can move into loving kindness. Well, isn't that similar to what we talk about at Rythmia? When we talk about things that you're going to see in plant ceremony, that you don't have to engage them, you don't have to suppress them and ignore them, you don't have to get hooked by them, you just have to observe them, because what's coming is going. That's one of our biggest teachings at Rythmia. What's coming is going. So when something comes up for us to observe, we simply observe it and be with it, abide with it, and then allow it to dissipate. In that way, we are beginning to trigger new ways of thinking in the body. We're creating a new personal reality. We become aware of our unconscious patterns and behaviors. We can ask ourselves, do these emotions belong to our future? Does this way that I'm feeling right now belong to my future? And the truth is that I'm never going to change any of my old habits until I change my energy. And where I place my attention is where my energy goes. Where my attention goes, my energy flows. So today, I'm looking to change some old emotional patterns in myself. And how am I going to do that? The thought occurred to me before this talk was, today I am going to meditate a little bit more. When these old emotions come up, I'm going to become present, right? Not hooked by the past, because what happens if old emotions come up, an old habit, an old behavior wants to emerge. And what am I going to do? Oh, well, I get hooked by the past. I get hooked by something that some old emotional behavior, and I start bringing my past into my future. So if I can become present in this now moment, how can I become present in the now moment? My one way of doing that is breathing. One way of doing that is just getting curious about something. You can get curious about outside. You can get curious about a pebble on the floor. You can get curious about a piece of trash crumpled up and see something amazing. Or you could meditate, right? Lots of different ways to break up that old way of being, that old pattern, because that old pattern is going to hook us and pull us back into the past. So if I can break up that old pattern and become present, then the next thing I want to do is futurize. Oh, well, what's going on? Well, I can't sit still. I've got too much to do. This is ridiculous. How can I stop and meditate right now? I've got so many things on my plate. I've got too many things to do. You can't afford not to stop in that moment, because by futurizing, you're also removing yourself from the present, not becoming aware of your unconscious patterns and behaviors, and you're just projecting those old patterns into the future. So the first step is to become aware of our unconscious patterns and behaviors. In order to change habit, the first step is to become aware of our unconscious patterns and behaviors. Then maybe the first step is just to notice, am I in an unconscious pattern or behavior? Am I hooked? Am I wanting to suppress something? Am I wanting to move beyond something? And when we find that present moment, we can reprogram and we can rewire ourselves. We can release new energy to help create a new destiny. And to find the present moment, I must become aware of my emotions and thoughts and my feelings. And all of my emotions and thoughts and feelings are based on the past. They're all based on something in the past. Hi, Alyssa. Thank you for that. And if my emotions and feelings and thoughts are based on the past, and the more I reconnect with the old ways of being, I'm bringing my past into my future. I can actually predict my future because it's all known. My body's actually physically addicted to the known. My body is physically addicted to the comfort that I feel, even if behaviors are unhealthy. Our bodies are addicted to those unhealthy behaviors because they're comfortable, because they're known. So to change, I've got to be willing to move into the unknown. I've got to be willing to be present with the way I'm feeling and be okay with the unknown. So today, as I'm going to try and change some old habits and some old ways of being, I know that my body is going to say, hey, wait a minute, this is uncomfortable. I want to go back to what's comfortable. Even though it's harmful and not healthy, I'm going to go back to what's comfortable because it's known. But to change the old self and to move to the new self, I've got to be in the present moment, and I've got to be willing to undergo and endure a little bit of discomfort. And if I'm just aware of that, that's my thought today. I don't know how it's going to work, I'll let you know on Thursday when I do another Facebook Live. Walking the Path is coming up Thursday at noon Pacific time. I'll let you know how today goes, because if I can be present to what I'm feeling, these old thoughts and emotions, be present, then I can begin to disengage those emotions and be comfortable with the unknown. So my thought today is, hey, JJ, you've got to be aware that you're going to be uncomfortable today. It's going to happen. An old way of being is going to come up, and I'm going to have to become present, be aware, and know that it's going to be a little uncomfortable. Can I be with the uncomfort? But I think just knowing that makes a huge difference. Just knowing that there's going to be some old ways of being that are going to try and pull me back, because the body is physically addicted to the chemicals, the toxic or tonic chemicals that are released when I do a particular old pattern. And that old pattern I'm addicted to that feeling of comfort. I'm addicted to that feeling of the known. And so I'm going to capitulate to that. But instead, today, join me in saying, you know what? It's going to be uncomfortable for a few minutes. And how can I deal with that uncomfort? Well, my answer today is a 5-minute meditation, or breathing, a 5-minute breath work, right? Just to become present in the moment and to disconnect the way my patterns of thinking in the mind. Because these unconscious, these subconscious patterns that are in the mind, they're what's running me like autopilot, right? So the first step in rewiring and reprogramming this is to disconnect from those old subconscious patterns. How can I do that? By becoming present. How do I become present? Breathing. How do I become present? A little meditation. How do I become present? Become curious about something. Maybe you can't meditate in that moment. Maybe you're in traffic and you notice an old way of being coming up. Get curious about the person in the car next to you. Get curious about all these people on the road. Begin to think about how everybody's just trying to get to the same destination. Begin to open your heart to realizing that everybody wants to get home. Everybody wants to get to there. Everybody's busy. Everybody has some place to be. We're all on this road right now. Already, you're short-circuiting an old way of being. You're short-circuiting old thought patterns, and you're beginning to become in the present moment. And doing that is what's living in the unknown, living in a new way of being. And it's a little death of the old self. But the best way to predict the future is to create it. And how to create it is by being in the unknown. What thoughts do I want to have? How am I going to rehearse these behaviors to disconnect from an outer world and become present? My brain doesn't know the difference between the inner world and the outer world. So if I can begin to short circuit those old patterns by turning to my inner world, by becoming curious about something in the outer world, by breathing or by meditating, I become present. And then I'm in a new inner world. And the outer world begins to match my inner world. So today, that is the key. Today is, hello, Steve. Hello, Debbie. Thank you. I'm in with you, Debbie. Come on, let's do it. We'll meet together back on Thursday at noon Pacific time and see how we're doing. The whole point today, your mission, if you choose to accept it, is to become aware of your unconscious patterns and thoughts, to begin to be aware that to change an old pattern, an old way of thinking, an old way of being is stepping into the unknown, and stepping into the unknown is uncomfortable. There's some discomfort. So you got to be gentle with yourself. And in being gentle with myself and stepping into the unknown, I'm going to create a new future. I'm going to be generative. And as Joe Dispenza says, the old model, the Newtonian model, is cause and effect, right? I have to do something. I get a house and then I got to pay the mortgage for 30 years, right? Cause and effect. It's a slow model. The quantum model, the new model, is causing an effect, right? It's not something happened and there's an effect. That's the victim mentality in an old model of being. The new model is a generative mentality where I'm creating my future and I'm causing the effect. And I cause that effect by changing the internal dialogue in my mind. I cause that effect by, hey, Christian Wisdom, great to see you, man. I cause that effect by beginning to short circuit the old patterns, the old ways of being. And I do that by breathing. I do that by doing a short meditation. I do that by becoming curious in something around me, something in my environment. It might be some pebbles on the floor. It might be a piece of trash. How can I be curious about everything? That's immediately bringing me into the present moment, short-circuiting those old patterns and allowing me to disconnect from the unconscious, subconscious autopilot that's running me. And in that way, little by little, I begin to be the cause of my future instead of just being at the effect of some other cause, right? That is the intention. Alyssa, I'm glad you're in. I'm in. So our mission is to become aware today, to become aware of our old patterns, our old ways of being, and our old ways of acting and thinking and feeling, and to simply stop in the moment and just notice, am I hooked? Am I engaged? Am I caught? Am I angry? How am I feeling? Just to become aware of my feelings and thoughts, turn towards some practice that's going to help me become anchored in the present moment, a brief meditation, a little breathing, or becoming curious about something in my environment. And in that way, that's our first step. We'll meet together in 2 days on Thursday at noon Pacific Standard Time, and we'll talk about the next step in releasing old habits and old patterns and the way that we become the generative, creative, powerful predictor of our future. That's what it's all about, baby. So I'm so grateful to have this opportunity to talk to you today. I'm so grateful that you all joined me. Thank you. Hadia, hello. Yes, I love those Joe Dispenza meditations. Kathy, hello. Thank you for everyone who joined today. I'm wishing you peace and blessings and power on this journey of self-discovery, power on this journey of becoming more, of becoming more than our environment, more than our thoughts, more than our thinking. We are more than this. Spirit is more than this. We got this. We're going to do it together, and we'll see you on Thursday. Peace and richest blessings.